Hi, everyone, and welcome.
Or welcome back
to the Wizarding World Legacy Podcast, where we discuss the Wizarding World's past, present, and future.
We're your hosts, Eric
and Jasmine. And today, we are here to talk about the newest rendition of Harry, Ron, and Hermione, the Golden Trio.
So we're going to be covering the casting choices for this, sharing our opinions on this, and hopefully getting your opinions in the comments below.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to start it out by saying I'm pretty excited. These three very special kiddos have been selected after, some have called it an extraordinary casting process where about 30,000 kids auditioned.
They literally went through 32,000 audition tape. They thought there were a ton of amazing options.
Right.
But these three obviously just stood a head above the rest.
And I mean, just based on the pictures that I've seen and the very limited, content that we've been able to access on some of their history, I think they look the parts.
One of the things that I really like is if you look at the original Ron, Harry, and Hermione, and I'm going to try to make sure that we include some overlays throughout this, but if you look at the original Ron, Harry, and Hermione photograph, these three are in a kind of similar setting, and they're in the same order. So the original photo, it's Hermione, Harry, and Ron. They did the same thing for this photograph, and they're
all,
in
like, outside. It's grassy.
It's like a kid-friendly space, like where you would see kids just hanging out. Supposedly, the photo for the original trio, that's like the first time they all actually met each other and knew they were going to be working together. And that is supposedly the case again.
Oh my gosh!
So we got three kids. We'll get into their names and credits in a second, but just off the cuff, looking at this picture, does this say Ron, Harry, and Hermione to you?
Yes. Honestly, what I first noticed, they put Harry in a Weasley sweater.
Yeah.
Very intentionally.
And funny enough, some people will say, well, he doesn't have the H on it, like in the books. The books
it's not
don't have.
In the books.
Right. So if you're being book accurate, the show has the H.
Right.
And Ron
W and the R.
Not there in the books. So this is actually a very book accurate representation, which is a nice little...
I agree. And so it was the sweater for Harry. I do feel weird talking about children's attributes, but Arabella's teeth, Hermione's teeth.
Yeah, so little kids, when they first get in their front teeth, they usually look disproportionately large, especially if they're all the way in.
I was going to say, your kiddo's right now, he's growing in all of his front teeth.
I mean, he's kind of a peanut, so they look big. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so Arabella's teeth kind of fit that. A little bit buck teeth. She's not buck teeth, but a little bit large in appearance.
Yeah.
Which comes into play when it comes to Hermione's character, some of her insecurities, those kind of things, and something that is done, Jinx that's done to her. And then Ron, red hair, which is funny because some people brought up like their similarities and differences from the book description. And Ron, as in Rupert Grint, actually thought he did not match the character description from the book.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll get into the common description people know about Ron.
Right.
Which is that Ron was tall.
And lanky.
And freckled with red hair, just like all the other Weasleys. Rupert Grint's response to that was, well, this really doesn't describe me at all. I'm not all that tall. I don't have any freckles. And I suppose I'm a ginger. That's about it.
That's it.
So this kid does have some freckles.
Yeah. He's got freckles. He's got the red hair.
We don't know if he'll be tall and lanky yet, but he's got a build that could work out that way.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Absolutely.
That is one of the difficulties
when you're casting kids.
Literal children.
I mean, and it's so exciting because, when I was younger when the movies came out, so I didn't really think about, the casting process and the movie creation process. But these kids' lives have changed
forever.
So drastically in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. In some ways it's a ton for the better, but this is such a stressful endeavor. And I guess one of the things in the casting process that was such a big deal is like really making sure they understand what they're agreeing to.
Right.
They did have problems with a lot of people on the original cast in terms of behavioral issues. Even Tom Felton, who I think really comes off as a wonderful human being.
Right.
And not somebody you really heard about getting in trouble much. He got not arrested, but he got detained a couple of times. He was dared to shoplift by his mates.
Of course.
And he got stopped for that. He got severely addicted to alcohol, and he had other issues. Daniel Radcliffe was a raging alcoholic for a while.
Yep. I mean, the process takes its toll, especially when you start something at such a young age. I mean, can you imagine being 11 and being like, oh, I know for the next 10 years what I'm doing?
For a job.
for a job.
When most 11-year-olds aren't even thinking about a job.
Right.
So, yeah, it poses a totally different environment to grow up in.
Yeah.
They're going to be going to school there, so they're not in school with kids their own age. And then you're going to be famous, like, overnight.
I know they're going to be famous, but there are a lot of kids in this movie, so they do get a lot of, like, time with kids their own age.
Maybe. If you ever read Beyond the Wand about Tom Felton, they were kind of sequestered away from a lot of the sort of extras and secondary actors and stuff. So when they would go to school, they'd kind of go at their own times because some of them may be required to be on set while others were not, and so they had to fit their schooling in when they could. So they're really not in classes altogether.
Wow.
Yeah, so it makes that social element a little bit difficult.
Absolutely it does. It's kind of crazy.
How about Harry's appearance?
He has blue eyes as far as I've seen.
Yeah, so there was actually a picture circulating around where somebody edited his eyes to look green. Mm-hmm. They're not. They're blue.
They're blue.
So we do have to hope.
They tested contacts in the audition process.
And he can wear them.
And hope that he can wear them.
And at the very, very least, if he can't have those brilliant green eyes, which I think he should, whoever plays his mom in the flashbacks and stuff like that, in the Mirror of Erised scenes, needs to also have blue eyes.
Yes.
Right? At the very least. They should both have green, but if he can't, she's got to have blue eyes to match.
Agreed.
Because otherwise the whole, you have your mother's eyes.
Means literally nothing.
Yeah.
Overall, casting on just
Appearance alone,
I'm very excited.
Yeah, and the Kichi way that they kind of announced it with the picture being not the same, but similar.
Right, and
similar,
the little posting that said, "Dear Mr. Potter, Miss Granger, and Mr. Weasley."
Very cute. Just the whole way they went about it was pretty cute, and given some of the backlash that the series has already had, it's encouraging.
Yeah. Who is our Harry Potter?
Harry Potter is being played by Dominic McLaughlin, a nice Scottish name, but he's not Scottish.
No, he is.
Is he from Scotland?
I was going to say, that was one of my only, concerns, is I've never heard him speak before, so I am curious about his accent.
You know, I haven't heard him speak before, but we could hear him speak because he is one of the only cast members that has had an actual role in a film.
That's true. But isn't that coming out?
But it is filmed, so before we ever see him as Harry Potter, I mean, a little too late, but before we ever see him as Harry Potter, you can see him in the film Grow, where he stars alongside another Harry Potter cast member,
Nick Frost,
who is due to play Rubeus Hagrid.
Yeah.
So yeah, they both are featured in that film together. The film is completed. I don't think it's come out yet.
No.
But it will be out before Harry Potter's first episode launches. Yeah. Grow is an exuberant tale full of giant pumpkins, madcap characters, and a little girl who just might be a pumpkin growing savant.
Oh.
So kind of cute that it's still this kind of witchy vibe to it.
Yeah. It also feels very accurate to Hagrid.
Yeah.
I always associate pumpkins with Hagrid.
Oh yeah, for sure. And kind of funny that the guy playing Hagrid's in it.
Yeah. So everything is on brand.
If he is truly Scottish in that, he has a Scottish accent, hails from Scotland, still lives there.
Right.
You do have to make sure he can do a British accent.
Yes.
I do find that most people from the UK can do a decent job of having an interchangeable accent. So people from, we'll say, England and Wales and stuff can sometimes do a Welsh or an English accent, or they can do different English accents because there are multiple of those.
Gotcha.
Or they can do a Scottish or Irish accent better than maybe an American or somebody with a totally different language altogether. Don't know if that holds true for little kids, but it's possible.
It's possible. It's also possible that he just outright has a British accent.
Right.
And that this won't be a concern at all, but we'll find more about that as we see grow. As we grow.
That's on Sky Films, but that's really his most notable thing, and I think, as far as I'm aware, that's his only notable part. Certainly his only film part.
Also, because this movie hasn't come out yet, he's relatively undiscovered until that day they posted his picture, and now he's everywhere.
If you're looking at his IMDb, the little photo of him is a cutout from the picture of the trio on his IMDb, so that's super cute.
Yeah, it's definitely his. I feel like he's really kicking off here.
Yeah. So they did want to cast no-name actors for all the kids. Well done.
Absolutely.
Right off the start.
Yeah, I'm absolutely here for Harry. Next up, we have
Arabella. You want to talk about her first?
Arabella Stanton.
So Arabella Stanton is... you take this one. Yeah.
So Arabella, she is a British actress, and she has a much stronger foundation in, musical theater because she has played Matilda.
She has.
And she was in Matilda playing
On West
Matilda on West End.
Which is a big deal.
Exactly. So from 23 to 24, she was playing on the West End. And I think one thing that I really loved about that is in those, in the show, she has the bushy hair.
Yeah, not for the whole thing, but there are scenes where she's got wild and bushy hair, and it's like, dude, that's Hermione. That's it.
That's what I'm looking for. So I was wicked excited about that.
Definitely one of the things that Emma was missing.
Yes.
They tried to do the crimping and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't that wild.
No.
Hers is great, because she has thick, full, beautiful hair to begin with. Yeah. And it's just, it's easier to do that with.
She was also Control in Andrew Lloyd Webber's Starlight Express from 24 to 25. So she's actually had some roles.
Granted, not television roles.
Nope.
These are stage acting. But we've seen a number of stage actors who have gone to the film world or TV world, and that has really set them up for success.
Yeah.
Because you have to kind of over-dramatize things and get way out of your comfort zone.
Right.
I also feel like it's a catch-22 going from stage to screen, because you do have to dial that back a little bit.
Yeah.
But you've been used to pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone in front of a live audience night after night, which is hard to do.
Absolutely.
With that said, it's not necessarily immortalized in the sense of there's a bunch of cameras pointing at me and they're filming me. These are people who are coming to see the play, and they may not come back, and I'll probably never see them again.
Right. It's also very different, whereas, with musical theater and you're on stage, you're telling one story through night after night, whereas with, filming, you're doing one scene
at a time.
And if you mess it up, you're doing it again and again and again.
Yeah.
So it's a very different experience overall, but I do think that she's got,
she's got a good foundation.
She's got a fantastic foundation. I think that she has been cast incredibly well. I am slightly disappointed to have seen that some fans are reacting negatively.
We'll call it how it is. Some fans are being dicks.
Yeah. She's a child.
And there's already people kind of tearing into her because they don't think her appearance matches the Hermione that is described in the book.
She's frankly not white enough for these people.
I'm not sure which description you're basing that on. She is British. That doesn't necessarily mean you're Caucasian, but she is British. And she is tan. That's true, at least in this photo, which looks like it's taken on one of the few sunny days they have in the UK.
True.
But she's tan.
Yeah.
She does have nice, dark, beautiful hair.
Yep.
Dark eyelashes, dark eyes. Well, Hermione has brown hair.
Yep.
Brown eyes. We know that she's of a Caucasian persuasion, but we don't know that she's white.
Right.
We don't know that she's white.
Okay.
She could be a little bit more.
She could be less.
Yeah. She could have more melanin. So if her parents were, distantly Italian or French, there are a lot of Italian and French individuals who have very tan skin. You look at my mother, for example, who is Italian.
Very Italian.
In the middle of the winter, she's still more tan than most people in the dead of summer. I once compared her to a Peruvian because I was trying to describe my friend, and I said, well, he's dark, Mom, like you. And I was a little kid, and...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he was from Peru, and Peruvians, just so you know, are quite tan.
Yes.
So I would say the people who are, dumping on her for not being what they envisioned Hermione to be, you've got a sod off, mate.
Yeah.
All right, just piss off. Give the girl a chance.
Of the three, she has the most experience.
Yeah, and I think she could be really, really promising in this role. And again, Matilda was a white character that she portrayed. Ain't nobody have qualms with that. She did a great job.
Respectfully, stop.
Yeah.
That's enough of that.
I don't think we need to hate on child actors. Also, I would like to say, if you're somebody who's on other forums and things like that, giving your opinions, you can disagree with a casting choice.
Yes.
You don't need to be an ass about the actor themselves, because they didn't cast themselves. They may have applied for the role, but, lots of these actors apply for lots of roles because your chance of getting them are slim to none, especially when you're undiscovered.
Right.
So, I think she's a great option. She does have some acting experience, albeit not exactly the same, but I still think applicable. She's got some of the descriptors that I think work really, really well. I'm excited to see what comes of it.
I think she's adorable, and I think she'll do a great job.
Super cute kid. That would be probably the only thing I disagree with.
Is that she might be too cute.
Yeah, which is the same problem we had with Emma. J.K. Rowling even said, Emma's perfect, but she's just too cute. She's too beautiful of a girl. isn't really Hermione, but she is. You know, everything else about her is Hermione, but she is too pretty. She shouldn't, you know, be as pretty as she is. I think we're running into the same thing here, but, you know, there is a degree of a beauty standard for people who are going to be on screen. It's a visual medium.
Yeah.
And so you don't want a kid who's a little tough to look at.
Especially with kids.
Yeah.
I think that it's much easier to cast an adult in the series who might not be traditionally attractive.
Yeah,
because,
especially if the role calls for that.
Right, if
like
the role
Snape.
calls for it, then you should be casting someone who's not traditionally attractive because they are an adult and knows how to handle it.
Yeah.
It's not exactly fair to do the same thing to a kid.
And I will say, as much as Hermione is maybe not described as a beautiful kid, she's not outright described as, like, ugly.
Right.
Right. There's just some quirks to her appearance.
Exactly. Bushy hair, buck teeth.
Yeah, so I think Arabella is going to be a great choice and do well.
Absolutely. Well, last but certainly not least, Alistair Stout.
Alistair Stout? What a UK name.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, you think of Alistair Moody.
Yep.
Non-content. He's also British. Not actually been in any, like...
He hasn't been in anything.
Yeah. We can't say he hasn't been in anything, but he kind of hasn't been in anything, really. Except for a commercial... I think it's a commercial for potatoes.
Potatoes.
Yeah, it's roll-on Jersey Royal season potatoes.
And he is cast as Kid at Table.
Yeah, and so I was able to find the snippet about 50 some odd seconds into the commercial where we see him sitting at the table for like 2 seconds. This is a blink and you'll miss it kind of moment. He's really in there for just a second. I think he's in the trailer a little bit earlier when there's a big group of kids too. You can't pick him out. But he is in a commercial and doesn't have a speaking role. It's just kind of like, and he's sitting at a table,
right,
getting some potatoes served to him. Just potatoes.
Just potatoes.
Not a very un-Ronald-y thing.
Exactly.
To be eating.
The name, the person, the previous work history, all feels on brand.
Yeah, like he didn't study for the test.
Nope.
That is very Ron.
Right. And I think that I might have seen something where Arabella had gone to like acting school or like...
She had done other like kids productions. I want to say she had done... In our area, we have this thing, it's called Kids in Action, where they do like Beauty and the Beast Junior. They do Annie Junior. So it's kind of like a somewhat abbreviated form of the play, and it's more geared towards child actors without acting experience to get them into the world of acting and excited about that. She had done some of those.
And she had gone to, I'm looking at the Guildford School of Acting and the British Theatre Academy.
Yeah, the British Theatre Academy is the one I had heard about.
Yep.
I knew there was two, but yeah, so she had done other smaller productions, but she was on West End.
Right.
And, like, that's a big deal.
Right. So Hermione, the most bookish, the most prepared actress who will be playing her, has the most education in the area of acting, has the most experience in the area of acting, and frankly, I'm appreciating that symmetry.
I don't want them to add scenes in that don't belong in the book, but I do hope there's a way to capitalize on the fact that she can sing.
Yes.
I'd love to hear that. I don't know how you work that in without
What if she
deviating
sings
from the book.
while they need to get Fluffy to go to sleep?
Yeah, but then you'd be changing the book because Harry's supposed to play the flute that
Oh, yeah.
Hagrid gives him. But it would be interesting if, like, something she says or whatever, she sings in a sing-songy enough way where you're like, oh, she can sing.
Yeah, she could just be humming in her dorm.
She could, or while she's studying.
She's studying.
Being her bookish self.
Exactly.
We have other cast members who have already been selected.
Yep.
So Severus Snape has been cast. It has been confirmed this is the most contentious casting that there has been for a number of reasons. But Papa Asidu...
Papa.
Yeah, Papa. Anyways, again, as wonderful as an actor as he is, and he has had some pretty emotionally diverse roles, stage and TV roles, and he does a great job. He just does not fit any of the physical descriptors of Severus Snape.
But we have fully discussed this in our previous works.
So make sure you watch that.
We also have John Lithgow
As Albus Dumbledore.
We have Jeanette McTeer.
As Minerva McGonagall.
We have Nicholas Frost.
As Rubeus Hagrid, which I think out of all of them is definitely the most on point. He just kind of like fits that feel of Hagrid.
I'm excited about Jeanette McTeer.
I'm excited about her. I don't think she's in any way a bad casting. We haven't heard her do a Scottish accent, which, as we talked about, she'd probably be fine to do. She commands presence and respect. And some people said she looked too young. I don't think she looks too young. One, she is very close in age to what Maggie Smith was. Maggie Smith, I think, maybe didn't age the same, probably because actresses in Hollywood versus, the UK
Right.
tend to be more involved in medical cosmetics and aesthetics that might enhance their appearance and maintain it for a longer period of time.
I think that she'll be pretty darn fantastic. And the series is going to last 10 years. So I think that she'll age appropriately throughout the series.
And witches and wizards don't age the same.
Right.
So for her to look a little bit younger is perfectly okay.
Straight up facts.
Yeah.
Dumbledore might look way older than we expected him to be.
Yeah.
Whereas McGonagall might look a little younger.
Both of those are probably okay. We had a couple other that we haven't covered yet. We can touch on them briefly in here. And we will do a more in-depth episode.
I was going to say, I am not prepared for this.
Yeah.
I need to do a little bit more research. But we have Luke Fallon as Quirrell.
Yep. And he is of the right age to be Quirrell Quirrell.
Fair.
The guy who was cast last time was too old. He should have been a somewhat recent graduate from Hogwarts, so he should have been like in his 20s. The guy was like 40-something that was, or maybe he was late 30s that was cast as Quirrell. But he's been in some pretty good productions, like pretty good productions in the sense of requiring somebody who has a good ability to display very polar opposite emotions, which is really pivotal for somebody who is like, I'm very scared of everything, Potter. And then he has to go to like, he's the embodiment of evil because he's housing evil.
He's housing evil.
Yeah.
He's renting space to evil. We also have Paul Whitehouse.
Who kind of like Nick Frost has a pretty comedic history. He's really well known for his comedic background, which is not a bad thing for Filch.
Not at all.
Yep, because he's going to be playing Argus Filch.
Right.
And he also, like, if you look at him, he's got that kind of like older, could give you that firm look kind of British guy.
Yeah, you look at him and you see it.
You could see the sneer. You could see the...
Yeah.
You killed my cat.
Yeah, it's like the kind of thing I feel like I've seen videos where the woman who played Dolores has said, they tell you that you'd be perfect to play a role where the character is described as looking like a toad. And she's like, ugh, that doesn't feel great. And so I kind of feel bad when I look at, Whitehouse and I go, no, I see Filch. I don't think I'd love to hear that myself.
Yeah, but it's in a good way, right?
But it's in a good way.
I see somebody who could embody Filch if given the role.
Exactly.
Because there's prosthetics and makeup and wigs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have officially 9 cast members. It is theorized that filming is starting this summer.
Again, it's suggested that some of it may have already started.
It's hypothesized.
And if they're doing it chronologically, the very first scene that would take place is on Privet Drive.
Well, the very first scene I guess.
Well, the very first scene
is
that we
the
saw in the movie,
Dursleys.
right, is on Privet Drive. If they're being very book accurate,
I was going to say, if we're going
Dursleys.
book accurate, we need the Dursleys to be cast, which have not been done yet.
Which I would really, at least that hasn't been announced.
Yeah,
I would really love them to include the whole lead up to the scene at Privet
Exactly.
Drive.
I want to watch Vernon drive to work and see all of the witches and wizards and just see, because I think it's such a perfect way to introduce you to the magical world, because you see
I think it's a perfect way to draw the contrast to the magical world.
Yes, between Privet Drive.
Totally normal people.
Yes.
Don't like any...
Don't like anything.
Yeah, anything fun, funny, entertaining, good.
Good. Valuable.
You get that. There's all this weirdness going around. You get this sense of tension right off the bat with Vernon and the weirdness. Other people would see that and be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, what's going on here?
Right?
And
Whereas he's like,
what are those weirdos doing?
And he's like, not today.
Yeah. I think that would be... It'd be funny to watch him grow more and more uncomfortable as the day went on.
Yes.
And then, of course, somebody says something about Harry Potter. He saved the Wizarding World. And he hears Potter and he freaks out and he's like, oh, what was your nephew's name? Was
Your
it
sister's son.
Harold? Was it Harry? What a common name. Yeah, so like that whole lead up would be great.
It's such an epic entrance. One of the first scenes that they could be filming right now with the cast that has been announced
Could be that Privet Drive scene.
Where Dumbledore delivers Harry to the Dursleys.
Dumbledore already cast.
Yep.
Minerva already cast. Hagrid already cast.
You can cast a cat.
You can borrow a baby.
You can borrow a kid.
Or you could just CG it if they decide they want to do that. I'd rather them do real if they can, but...
I was going to say, and there are very few, there's only where you're zooming in on someone holding the baby, and when the baby is in the basket on the doorstep.
Yeah, and that's really only if he's faced out.
Right.
You could do that whole scene other than the basket on the doorstep without seeing his face once.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, borrowing a baby feels reasonable. Make sure the baby has the same color eyes that Harry will have.
Or his eyes are shut the whole time because he's sleeping.
Make sure... That's a good point.
Right.
I think he's sleeping, actually, because it's late at night.
And he's bundled up.
Little Tyke fell asleep just as we were flying over Bristol.
Flying over Bristol?
Oh, one of these days I'll catch up. So, yes, we actually don't care about the eye color of the child.
Of the baby.
Of the baby.
Correct.
The child we care about. So I think we definitely have some scenes that we could be working on. Nothing has been officially confirmed that
those are
filming
rumors.
has definitely started, but there are rumors.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Another thing that has been officially announced, a brand new Privet Drive is under construction. And there are some aerial photos of this. Now, this is an extension of the Leavesden studio. So the Leavesden studio, located outside of London, is where the original series was filmed. Yep. Predominantly. There are also locations that they filmed in. But predominantly Leavesden Studios. Initially, the Privet Drive that they used was an actual neighborhood.
Yep, in Surrey.
And they did some set extensions to that to kind of like make everything look as cookie cutter as possible.
Right.
It was a real house.
Yep. And they started filming there for the first two.
Both first two movies, that's what they used. And after that, they actually ended up building a set that was an identical match to the house.
That's so funny.
Yeah, like, we'll just build the house. Not a big deal. And then they also built like a neighborhood. So there was like a couple of houses that kind of were cookie cutter, and then they digitally extended it from there. Essentially, they're just going right into building it now.
Yeah.
And it's a very different style. They're kind of going for like a Tudor style.
What's interesting is that it's been confirmed that they are building the Harry Potter set.
Yeah.
Exactly what this functions as is as yet unknown.
Well, I think for the most part, it is being said that this is Privet Drive.
So interesting.
Because, and that could be wrong.
I was going to say, because when we first looked at this, they're Tudor-style homes, it looks like Godric's Hollow.
Yeah, like I would say, maybe this is Godric's Hollow because the building style matches the Potter's house that we see in the movies. But Tudor-style homes, depending on where you are in the UK, are not uncommon at all.
Right.
Obviously. It doesn't seem humdrum enough to fit the Dursleys. Like, there's something almost magical and medieval about the Tudor-style home, even
also,
if it's modernized.
If you look at these, like, this is different from that, is different from that. Like, it's
definitely not as cookie cutter.
They're not as cookie cutter, which is why I think it's possible that it could be Godric's Hollow, but most of the rumors are leaning in the direction that it's Privet Drive.
Yeah, and there's more to the rumors that suggest that this is probably genuine, because they have talked about the budget for it. It's in the billions in terms of building just this set.
I was going to say 1.2?
1.2 or 1.8 or something. It's a lot. It's a stupid amount of money.
It's a lot of money.
But the set is not just the Dursleys' house, right? It's the Dursleys' house, the surrounding houses. And some of these are going to double as classrooms for the kids that are on set so that they can go to school while they're on set in between their takes and stuff. It's going to have places for offices.
And, like, I'm assuming, like, props departments and costuming and
hair and makeup departments and all that kind of stuff. They also have places there for animal trainers, places for the animals to be while they're not involved in takes, veterinarians. There's, like, crafty areas for people to eat and all that kind of stuff. So it's
I'm not handy at all.
It's all contained.
I would learn craftsmanship just to get an invite.
I would learn just about any skill I needed to be a part of this. Yeah.
Any skill in the entire world.
So this is sort of one of the aerial views that I'm going to be showing on screen here. Again, you can see that it is a Tudor style design. It's pretty big. This is a pretty big extension, but this is considered a full-scale extension to the Leavesden studio. So this will be something that sticks around for a long time. You see there's all sorts of portable office kind of structures. These are like container offices. And there's still a ton of construction underway. I suspect that they will probably use this for more than just Privet Drive because there's a lot of square acreage that's involved in this. It's pretty cool. And behind it, you can see some of the Leavesden studio sound stages and those kind of things. Yeah. It's underway. I guess I don't know what else to say about it than that. It's happening. Solidly happening.
It's being thoroughly invested in. And so I think that's one of the things that's most exciting to me is that it is very clear that HBO is in no way half-assing this project.
At least not in terms of their investment in doing things big.
I mean, if you just look at the 32,000 kids that were reviewed for the casting and the $1.2 or $1.8 billion investment in just set construction.
For one main set.
Yes.
This is not including, like...
the castle.
It's not including the castle, which there are some sets that they're going to, at least as much as possible, reuse. And I think there's some merit to doing that. You do have things like the Warner Brothers Studios, the theme parks, right?
Right.
through Universal.
Right.
And so you don't want to like super take away from that because you've got now 3 Harry Potter theme parks. You've got Hogsmeade, Diagon Alley, and Wizarding France, which is not exactly the same, but there is a tie into the British Ministry of Magic as part of that park.
Right.
So I think reusing some of the sets makes sense.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Tie it together.
Yeah.
And because you're going to want to attract people to these places too in the real world.
Right.
So.
And then you can do events at these places, you know, in support of...
Yeah. And then you also have, you know, like, there's some concept art that was released for the new Harry Potter series. And these have, you know, differences in terms of the depiction of Hogwarts and those kind of places. You can see here that, you know, Hogwarts is depicted quite a bit differently in terms of the Gryffindor common room. It's not entirely differently, but it is different in terms of the depiction of the Gryffindor common room. You've got them walking through the hallways, and so they've got these like lockers and stuff like that. You never actually saw that in the series.
No.
I don't know that that's a major deviation from the movie series. It's just not something you saw. You get a depiction of the Great Hall, which again, not entirely different from the Great Hall that we see in the movies, but definitely not the same. No. You know, you've got your big head table, you've got your long house tables, you've got your big kind of candelabras and chandeliers.
Yeah. I really don't have an issue with them reusing the castle. I think it would be fun for the kids, you know, to be able to, I imagine they'll get a pretty sweet backstage tour if they were to visit Universal and be able to see sort of the whole castle and all of the rides. I imagine that could be a fun trip for them.
The new depiction of Diagon Alley was pretty interesting, but that would be a major deviation from how it looked in the films.
Yeah.
And I think making it that different as far as the concept art shows would be tough because you've again got a whole park that looks a certain way.
So the set is being built. Cast, we have 9 characters cast. There's still a number of important characters that we need for this first season. The Dursleys, Draco, Neville. I'm very excited to see, you know, Neville, Seamus Finnegan. Dad's a muggle. My mom's a witch.
Bit of a nasty shock for him when he found out.
It's said much faster and much less intelligible.
Professor Sprout.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we need all of our faculty besides Hagrid. So Professor Sprout.
And I would like to see the ones that, like, don't have a major role still there.
Yes.
Because some of them were cast for the movies. Like, you had Professor Vector.
Arithmancy,
yeah. You had astronomy teacher. I can't remember her name. It's going to bother me. But you had these teachers that were actually in the movies in these tiny, tiny parts. Yule Ball scene and, like, the very first head table scene.
Yeah, I was going to say, you always see them at the head table. But
yeah. So it would be nice to have all of them, and it would be kind of cool.
If they stuck around.
If they stuck around and they were book accurate to the books. Right?
Yes.
In terms of their involvement. Professor Flitwick's important. I'm going to say Warwick Davis is going to be hard to take the place of.
Good God, yeah.
He's just such a sweet guy and did such a great job, and he did multiple roles.
And like the pitch of his voice.
Well, because he's got like a very full timbre to his voice, but he's able to manipulate it so much. So he did like Grip Hook. He did the Grip Hook in the later movies. The first one was like lamp please,
right?
Key please. Very like kind of.
It was almost like cartoony, like.
Yeah, that actor unfortunately passed away. He took the place of Grip Hook, who that was supposed to be.
Right.
Also played the choir instructor, who then became Flitwick.
Yep.
So they just used that same embodiment for Flitwick, and then. Prior to that, he was this kind of like totally different looking Professor Flitwick.
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
It's going to be a challenge.
It's going to be a challenge, but I think that, you know, there's a lot of potential out there, and if they do want him to still be a small person, this could be a way to make up for not casting small people in the Snow White movie that just came out and pretty much bombed. Yeah. So Warner Brothers has a good chance to make Disney look bad, right? Giving little persons the role. Instead of just CGIing it. Because we have people who would be excellent who want to work and are like literally made for these roles. Like, this is perfect. And Firenze.
Oh my gosh.
Firenze, Bane.
There's one other.
Rowan.
Yes.
All the centaurs.
Yep.
Again, you could certainly CG it, but you could also have an actual actor in a bodysuit that you then CG extend into a centaur.
I'm wondering if they'll do... I think that it would be really fun if they did a casting announcement for Hedwig and for Fang.
Like for the animals?
Yep, for the animals.
Well, they always end up using multiple.
I know that.
I mean, there are...
Still.
There are some that get like the majority of screen time.
Yes.
And oftentimes the extras, like the double, are like stunt doubles.
The stunt doubles. Yeah. You could still introduce all of them. I would just... it would be incredible.
They're in the credits.
Yes.
So, they do get credit, which is nice.
Right. So I would love that announcement. It would make the series so real to me. And then, oh my gosh, this little boy, like Dominic's just going to have this owl that he gets to hang out with for the next 10 years.
Which is pretty cool. Snow owls are awesome.
Yeah, they're so badass.
They can hunt deer.
Yes.
It's crazy.
So I'm a little jealous.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I'm a lot jealous of Dominic. Let me be real.
We actually get snow owls where we live in the winter. They come down from Canada.
I've never seen one, but I'd love to. We have a lot more casting to do, a lot more announcements. Very excited. We will be sure to keep you posted as soon as we hear anything about them.
There was some other news we were going to go over in brief.
Very briefly, we also have a showrunner, Francesca Gardner.
Yep.
She is the best known for Succession.
Yeah, her work in Succession and His Dark Materials.
Yes.
Now, this is news that has already come out, but we wanted to make sure we cover this here too.
Yeah.
Because they have been working pretty closely with J.K. Rowling as the executive producer to make sure that things remain as book accurate as possible.
Yeah.
As much as people have their feelings about J.K. Rowling, I do think it's very important, if you want a book accurate representation, to keep her involved in all this, because one of the actual writers never read the books. Straight up said, I've never read the books. Now, he's got plenty of time to read the books.
Right.
I'm a little offended that you're casting people and hiring people, especially in a writing role, who've never read the books.
I'm okay with casting actors and actresses that haven't read the books, but if you're responsible for developing the story,
I think if
I
you're
take issue with
trying to do a book accurate representation, having read the books, if you're a main character.
Yeah, but if you're a main character, I think there was something to be said for Alan Rickman, who didn't know the ending until J.K. Rowling told him specifically.
But he started in his role before the ending was published.
Written. But that's what I'm saying, is that I think that there was something really powerful about his role that he didn't necessarily know where it was going. And so he was just authentically the bad guy.
Well, hold on. But at first he didn't know.
Yes, but
she
then
did tell
she
him.
did tell him.
And nobody else is allowed to know.
Which is
cool.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone deserved it, it was Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
But when he originally started the series, he didn't know necessarily where he would end up. And so I think that I'm okay with a character sort of going through and taking it one step at a time.
Yeah, well, not the writer, though. I have problems with the writer.
That's what I'm saying. And we can agree to disagree on this. We disagree on things all the time.
No.
Yep. This isn't going to work out for me.
We also have the director.
Yep. Mark Malloy.
He has been involved in Succession as well, so he helped to direct that. So it's good having a showrunner and a director that have already worked together.
Yes, that's huge.
Because you know that they're going to have a degree of all right, I know what you're looking for, and I know how to execute that and make it happen.
Exactly. Just positive working relationship.
The show is expected, obviously, to premiere sometime between 2026 2027. I think I had hoped for 2027 because that would put it at the 30-year anniversary.
Mark.
That would be pretty cool. Not that I want to push it off any further.
I was going to say, I don't know that I can fully support that because I'm excited.
But it gives them a chance to get more filmed by the time they start releasing it.
Okay, but you know that they're going to release it one episode a week, or they're going to take a weird break and they're going to make us wait for it anyway. So I really don't care.
What I don't want to happen, and HBO is known for doing this, this has happened with Outlander on Showtime. This has happened with Game of Thrones, House of Dragons.
House of the Dragon.
I'm not even going to say Game of Thrones. It was really House of the Dragon.
Oh, The Last of Us. This is us. Got it.
They're going 2 years between seasons.
Yeah.
And you can't really do that with this. Even if you film it all, you can't make people wait 2 years for the next episode to happen. That's crazy.
So mad.
Yeah, I think people will get pissed if that starts happening with this.
And I know, granted, for those shows, there was the SAG strike.
Sure, but then you also have Stranger Things, which...
I don't even remember if that's a show still.
It is. We're supposed to be getting season 5, and the show started 9 years ago.
There were children.
They were children. They're very much adults now, and they're supposed to still be children.
Right. So
I don't want to run into that. I think having people who work very well together and a pretty set story to work from, the fact that they're under a crunch in terms of the aging of the characters and really want to stay canonically true, hopefully will help. Using Leaveston Studios again, I love that. I think the nostalgia factor is going to be pretty real for anybody who might have been involved in the original film, anybody who watched any of the behind the scenes in the original film, and for people who might show up from the original film. I know Tom Felton had expressed the desire to just pop over and say hello to the new Mini Draco and just kind of pass the torch and just say good luck, mate.
think that would be adorable.
I do too. I hope they get it on camera, which, you know, they will.
They will.
Yeah.
So, in summary, we have officially 9 actors cast. We have a showrunner and a director. We have a $1.2 to $1.8 billion investment in a set that is actively being built at Leavesden Studios. We have a hypothetical air date between 2026 and 2027.
And I know they've done some costume design tests, makeup tests, you know, art direction tests. They've already published concept art, all sorts of other stuff. So stuff's happening. This is
happening.
Great.
It's real, and we're excited. We want to know what you guys think.
Yeah, what do you think about the casting choices thus far? Some of the ones we've already covered, some of the ones we briefly announced today, and the brand new trio. Like, what are your thoughts on each of them?
Yeah. Being nice.
Yeah, you don't have to be dicks about it. You can disagree with the casting choice,
Right.
and that's fine. We respect that.
Don't be dicks.
If you disagree, try to provide a genuine reason why. Like, what is it about that individual, without being a dick, that makes you think, I don't know that they fit the character? For our lead actor that's playing Harry, he's got blue eyes, right? That's a problem we ran into the first time.
He's Scottish. You can have issues, but
Yeah.
we're going for tasteful disagreements here.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
sure, let us know in the comments.
But if you agree, I'd also like to know why you think they're a good fit, what you're hopeful to see maybe from the experience that they have or don't have.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you know, like, what scenes are you really excited for? When I look at Arabella, I can picture her grabbing her books and running past Ron and Harry when upset. Like, I can see it. So there are just like certain scenes that really stick out.
I'm excited for the jinx to her teeth that make them bigger, and Snape goes, I don't see a difference. Yeah. I'm excited for those kind of things.
Exactly.
I think it's going to be cool to see things that weren't in the movies.
Right. Stay tuned, because we will have more content coming, some of the other actors and other updates that are coming your way.
Please make sure that you're subscribed. Hit that bell so you don't miss any notifications for when we post a new video. And until then, keep your wands at the ready.
And stay magical.
Finite.
What's the word when you can't understand words? Intellectual? It's not intellectual.
Intelligible.
Intelligible. Much less intelligible.
Yeah.
I am much less intelligent.
Oh my God.
But that's okay.